Well, hello. This is your podcast host. This is Yedidah, and you are now tuned into Unapologetically Purple, Epilepsy Advocacy. Yeah. How are y'all doing? That's what I want to know. Remember now, this is a live podcast, and it is not perfect, but who said we had to be perfect in the first place? I like excellence, but perfection, I'll leave that up to God and God alone. So, I have so much to share with you. I actually have wanted to go on all three of my podcasts and say so much about what is going on, but I decided I was going to come here first. I like all three of them. I hope you do too. I have three different podcasts. One is of course, Unapologetically Purple. And I'll explain to you what that means if this is your first time tuning in. Let me move this over and get comfortable here. And then I have another one called Pep Talk with Yedidah. And then there's Real Talk with Yedidah. And so Unapologetically Purple, I chose that name because of a few reasons. For one, I know that epilepsy uses the color purple in its campaign. But I also know that purple represents royalty. Did you know that? Because it does. It represents royalty. And so to be unapologetically purple, especially when we should be that way anyway, but especially when you or someone in your family is dealing with epilepsy, we find a lot of reasons why we need to be unapologetic, and I'm definitely going to share some with you. Unapologetic. You ever have a seizure? I'm a caregiver, but I definitely talk to my daughter about not being apologetic about a condition, a diagnosis, a disorder. I think a lot of times when people deal with medical conditions and disorders, and particularly when it comes to neurological disorders, people find themselves apologizing for something that is beyond their control. Why the apology? Is it because other people are very uncomfortable with what you may be dealing with when you're already uncomfortable with it yourself? You didn't ask for it. May I please go to the store and purchase a condition? No, you didn't go and ask for this. You didn't tell someone, give it to me. It happened. And it's not a fault. It's not your fault. Okay, so someone may be saying, well, I should have been more careful. I had a concussion, because there are different reasons why people actually have seizures. It could be from a very high fever, from a concussion, and sometimes, yes, it's hereditary, but then sometimes there's no reason at all. So do we apologize for things that are beyond our control? I'm asking that again. And if we do, maybe we shouldn't. I don't think we should. I don't apologize for having a child who was diagnosed with a medical condition. I didn't have to apologize when I had to go on the ICU, and I had a job. Was my boss calling me at that time when I was yes. And I don't apologize for not picking up that phone after the calls kept coming in when we had never experienced this before. I don't apologize for that. Nope. How many times do we ask people to forgive us for things that we, how can I put it? Like taking things that people put on us. I've had some hard conversations, you all. Oh my gosh. Hard and somewhat annoying at the same time. So, we have this stay in place, stay at home thing. And I don't know about you, but I know that some people probably have relatives who, are staying with them, or maybe you're staying with relatives or whatever it is. And perhaps maybe you had your own place before, but because of this, it was just better for everyone to be together. I get that. I understand that. But have you ever had those hard conversations that you didn't want to have in the first place? It's a little different when you're in your own space and you're able to close the door and the world is out there and you and your child, or you and your husband, or you and your family, like you're in your own space. Well, I'll share my story with you. I don't think I have. So about last year, as a matter of fact, my daughter and I lived up north. We were in New York City, and I am a woman of faith. And so, I get it. Some people, they have what they do. So I believe in faith, and I believe that I know that God is our Father, and I know that I can have a conversation with Him, and I can go into prayer and conversation is never one-sided. And so, it was impressed very strongly on my heart to get out of New York City. Hurry up. This was last year in around February, March. I started to hear this, and you know how sometimes you question certain things like, I don't know. I grew up here all my life, or whatever it is. I've been at this job. I know. No, I can't leave. I can't homeschool my child. I can't. But yet you're still feeling deep on the inside this impression, this strong urge to tell you to do otherwise. And so I had that a couple of times. I'll share those with you another time. But this particular time, there was no question. I knew we needed to move. New York especially where we were. So we went to a ministry in Times Square. Those of you who know about Times Square, very animated, high sensory, lights, television screens on buildings. If you're a tourist, it's a great place to go and look and to see. And then it's like, I got to get out of here. You get on the train in New York and people are just all on top of each other and pressing in and all of that. And for a child with epilepsy, it was difficult for my daughter. And here's the piece I want to get in here too. So I was an assistant pastor at the time. And I need to say this, right? Because I feel like a lot of times people who are in leadership positions and in these positions of authority created by mankind or what have you, God also calls us to be leaders too. But when you have a child who has a condition, who is dealing with sensory challenges, things that make them very uncomfortable, sometimes it's uncomfortable for us being on a train with all those people. Then to have a child who's this brave warrior, right, dealing with this, but yet you're in a leadership position and you feel like I need to be there for the people. I have to be on my post at a certain time. I have to hurry up and get there. And thank goodness our church services were not at ministry services. They weren't like at 8 or 9 in the morning. They were like at 3 in the afternoon. And do you know what? At first I was getting there okay, but then after a while I was showing up late, even though I didn't want to. It was one of those things that I want to say, I know some people from the old school would say, drag your child. You're the parent. You make it happen, right? Listen, just because some people did things that way back then does not mean it's right. And I wish people would stop trying to impress their childhood or what they thought was right upon other people. It's just annoying. So anyway, and I'm just thinking about that. It's just annoying. And yes, I said that, right? I think we have to be true to how we really feel. When we really feel annoyed, when we really feel a strong conviction that things don't need to go that way or be that way. I feel like sometimes we try to silence ourselves to make other people feel comfortable, even when we know what they're saying is not right. It's not compassionate. It's not empathetic. It comes from a space of, I know what I know, and you must accept what I know, and it shouldn't be like that. especially for a person who doesn't deal with it. It's okay to try to help. It's okay to give some, what's the word I want to say? It's not even corrective criticism. It's some advice, but to leave it in a space that says, this is advice. This is not the end all be all. This is my thought. These are my thoughts on it. You don't have to accept them. But I feel like people sometimes come, I don't know about you, but I know sometimes they will try to come at me from a space of, I know that you need to do this way, when they've never ever walked in my shoes. They've never cried my tears. They've never walked in your shoes. They've never cried your tears. They've never experienced your sleepless nights regarding this. Maybe they've had sleepless nights. I will not negate the fact that people do, but not concerning epilepsy. It's different for us. Not because we want it to be, not because we say, we are the called out apart ones. No. It's not that. This is not a luxury. It's not a luxury. Okay, so let me get back to that part. I told you all I've been wanting to talk to you all, so just bear with me. I have so much to say to you today. So there I was trying to get there, starting to feel a little upset. Like, come on. You have to get there. We have to come on. And then we would get outside and it would be like, she was just uncomfortable with having to get on the train. Now I get it. She really didn't want to get on that train. And like I said, New York is kind of animated, for sure. And then to go down into the heart of the city, 43rd, get off at 42nd Street, Times Square, walk through a very long tunnel where people are down there singing and, of course, panhandling, trying to make it on the train, doing all types of acrobats on the pole and, dancing and everything. That's New York. You get entertainment. You leave the house and you get free entertainment. It's free if you don't feel like putting anything in the hat or in the cup or what have you. But yeah, you get all of that. And so it got to the point where I stopped serving. I just said, I can't concentrate like this. I'm going to sit in the back with my child, make sure she's okay, and stop trying to press against this. Because the one thing that I know that God says is to love. So whether I made it on time or whether I didn't, and I was frustrated and the people saw me coming in late, and then I had to get up there and, go and pray or do whatever I was, supposed to do that day. The one thing about it is, if I wasn't doing it from a space of love, I was upset with my child because she was dealing with an illness. And listen, I know, hold on, parents, wait a minute, because let's say this too. There are times when our little children, whether they're little or even older, they'll try to play with us a little bit. I know some people say they try to manipulate us. I know it. Okay. Sometimes they do. Let's just tell the truth. But in spite of that, there are times when they don't. And we can check them when they try to, when they're trying to, you're like, don't do that. But there are times when they don't, and they're just plain old uncomfortable. And we spoke about it. If you didn't listen to the last podcast, did y'all like the way I said that? Where was I from? What state was that? But when my daughter came on and she was talking about in the school setting how she felt when she was having a seizure, what she was experiencing of being in the classroom and then feeling or seeing herself in the hallway running from darkness, and she could hear footsteps. Go back and listen to that, because she has a voice too. Your child has a voice. They're part of this campaign to help people understand and stop the stigma, stop the judgment. Just stop it. Okay. So I had to make a choice. And I know some people would have said, well, how could you stop? How could you stop serving God? How could you stop? My first responsibility to serve God is to my child. That's my first responsibility. Yes, I have to try to figure things out because our lives have changed. But she's my first responsibility. And if she's uncomfortable in a school setting, or if she's being bullied, and I've spoken to the staff and written emails and done workshops and called in the troops to train and all of these things, and they still don't get it, I don't apologize for pulling her out. I don't apologize for saying, you know what? Maybe this is not the best time for me to be up here in front of everyone, knowing that the ambiance in the church setting are now was these strobe lights, these flickering lights, or if I say I've had to do a lot of internal forgiveness when I say to the leadership team, hey, can I come and talk to you all about epilepsy and how certain things affect people with epilepsy and even migraine? And they don't want to listen because that's not so important as the ambiance. Or I say, the flickering lights are not good. And then we walk in on a New Year's Eve and it's dark and someone purchased flickering lights for just about everyone in there. So we open the door and the little rings, these rings are just flickering. Guess what? I did the exit stage right. And although I can forgive the people, it's the compassion, it's the empathy that this world does not have enough of. Those things sadden me, but not for too long, because I realized I made the best choice. It wasn't in the fact that I was being called pastor. Glory to God. Y'all pardon me. Now, normally I do feel the presence of the Lord sometimes, y'all. Yes, and I don't apologize for that either. That's what has kept me going. I don't know how I would have made it without the presence of God and the faithfulness of God. And so I did that. I left that. And then it's time to leave the city where some of my relatives were. And I did it. I didn't have the answer. I didn't quite even know how, right? Here's another thing. So we moved and found an apartment, and I feel like I need to have a whole talk with landlords. Are you a landlord? Are you a nice landlord? You better be. I hope you are. I know that people should not take advantage of the suffering, of the disenfranchised, of those who are struggling with illnesses, of those who are on disability. Why? Why do the people in this world choose to make fun of, to bully, to give people a hard time? Listen, let me tell you my story. You know what happened to me, y'all? We moved, we got out of the city because we were supposed to. And we found a place and they promised us beauty. Oh, you're going to have a beautiful apartment. Oh, it's going to look better than the model. Oh, it's going to have a beautiful backsplash and gray paint. It's going to be wonderful. Yet on the move-in date, it wasn't ready on the move-in date. That was number one, right? And so, we had to wait and then go take care of things they never told us to do. Like, we didn't have to get apartment insurance in New York, as far as I know. No, I didn't have to. Had a lovely space in a brownstone. It was so nice. I miss it so much. But it's the sacrifice, right? Sometimes parents, we have to make sacrifices. Me not being at my 9 to 5 was a sacrifice because I'm the type of woman I love to work and get things done. My boss made a comment one time, and I won't say what that comment was because some people it might not. Yeah. Boss at the time. But it's the way I was working. She was like, you work like a, she could have said a horse, a donkey, anything. But, I was like, why would she say that? But I know it's because I like to give things my all. I like to do a great job. I like for people to smile and be pleased with my work, what I'm doing. We like that too from our children. We don't always get it. They don't always act like they like what we're doing. Let's just tell the truth. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But we still do what we need to do. So we get to this place, and when I come back from running all these errands, getting the electricity on and getting renter's insurance and getting another money order or whatever it was, and now it's like the end of the day, the stuff is in one of my friend's vehicles, and all I want to do is she had to actually go to be with her family, is get this stuff out of her vehicle and get into our new space. Well, can I tell you what happened? We go in. I didn't go back to the office first. I had the money orders and the door was open to the apartment that I had signed a lease for. I said, let me go take a look. Oh my gosh. Can you believe this? I won't even tell you what I saw. You're not ready for it. You're just not ready. But I walked in and I went in the kitchen and I saw some things that I shouldn't have seen. There was no new backsplash. Actually, it looked like the dirty white tile in the train station in New York City. I don't know if they knew I was from New York and that was their way of saying welcome home. I hope not. Because, yeah. So then the maintenance gentleman walked in behind me and he says, I'm maintenance. I said, look at this. I showed him what I saw. And I said, pull this stove out. Pull out this stove. And he pulled out the stove and I saw big holes behind the stove. And then now you should have seen me start walking around that. I'm opening up closets, holes in the closet, going up the stairs because it was a town home. Could I call that a home? It was a town catastrophe. So I go up the dirty carpet, right? The guys were there. Now it's like 4:35. They're just getting ready to shampoo this carpet. Oh my gosh. And so I go up the carpet and up the carpet. I go up the stairs on the carpet. I look in one of the bedrooms and there I see just like another whole dirty carpet. The tub was filthy. There was an odor, and I couldn't believe that these people looked me in my face and told me that it was going to be beautiful. What did I do? I almost ran out of there. Thank goodness my daughter didn't come inside with me because she would have been like, Mommy, what is this, right? And I went to the office and I said, I will not move my daughter into this. I will not move my daughter in there. Not at all. And you know what the woman said to me? She said, then break your lease. Oh my gosh. Just like that. Very casual. We're not from this state. You want to break your lease. So then, my friend, she's like, and she's kind of, we used to actually work, in the same organization. And she was, the principal of my daughter's school in her lower elementary, had lots of nice meetings with them. And they were very attentive. And so she says, no, like she's new here and this, that, and the other. And so they said, the woman said, put her in the model apartment. Now, this was the model apartment that had the smell of mildew. And they kept promising, oh, we're going to fix it. Oh, you go away, come back again. Everything's going to look beautiful and new and painted. And they kept breaking their promises constantly. They're human. Human beings do things like that, right? We break our promises sometimes, and it doesn't feel good. And so I finally, after months of going back and forth with them and being cordial and all these emails and all these pictures, and I even hired an environmental inspector who confirmed that there was black mold and all kind of stuff. It was so annoying because they didn't have to do that. All they had to do was keep their word. And so I had to make a decision. And parents, listen, sometimes the decisions that we have to make are difficult. And if you are the type of parent who once found yourself like, before you had children, maybe you were like, I'm quiet, I don't this, that, and the other. But now you find yourself having to become a lioness or a lion, right? Parenting will bring that out of you. It will, because the kids can't speak up for themselves sometimes. So we have to do that. It's our responsibility to stick up for them, to advocate, to write those letters, to find another doctor when you need to. When the doctor's not listening and you know that medication has your child jumping off the walls and doing things that you're not used to them doing. And you're just like, I know. Are they angry? Are they wrestling with you? They're fighting with you. And you know it's the meds. You know it. And you say, well, the doctor, they went to school for this. Listen. You are the one who is the expert when it comes to your children. Dr. T. Brazelton said that, right? We learned about that touch points and I just believe it. Yes, maybe they're in school 8 hours of the day, but the rest of that time is you. Those hours, it's you. And whatever they dealt with at school that was annoying to them, they're going to bring it home to you. If their teacher upset them or something like that, they're going to bring it to you. If the bully bothered them and they were too afraid to stand up to the bully, they're going to come and try to bully you sometimes, right? That's the way that it is. And so that was another decision, another hard decision I had to make. It was months of going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then they just weren't telling the truth. It was really not good. And there were other tenants who had black mold and who were rushed to the hospital. All kinds of, it's like, what is going on? So did I question the move from the city? Not really. I knew I needed to do it. But I did recognize that sometimes everything does not turn into what you expect it to be when you make a change. Sometimes you have to still hear, I have to call that person back, whoever that was in the midst of our time together. Okay. So, yes, I know I should have put Do Not Disturb on, but I was so ready to come on here and talk to you all. I was like, let me get on there now. Anyway. Then I had to make another decision, and that was to leave, to get up out of there. And I had to be unapologetic about that. Yes, it would have been easier to stay there. Absolutely. Well, it wouldn't have been safer or healthier. It might have been easier to say, oh, but we have a key. We have an apartment. Let's stay here and suck up this black mold, right? No. Sometimes we have to make these decisions, right? So yes, I made the decision to give up being that assistant pastor. My daughter has to come first. And then the biggest thing was love. The biggest thing is love. Sometimes you have to make the hard decision. Do I leave my child in school? Do I pull them out? They're struggling. The medication is causing them to fall asleep. Whatever. These are not easy decisions, but the sacrifice that you have to make, sometimes you have to make it. And sometimes it can be tiring to have to keep trying to figure stuff out when you just wish it would can it just level off sometimes? And sometimes you have to leave relationships because like I said, in the subject matter, if you keep trying to explain things to people and they're not getting it, you have permission to say, it doesn't mean you're not going to be their friend. Sometimes you do get to move on. It doesn't mean like you're going to stay angry with them, because we must forgive. We just have to do that so that we can be free. When I get upset, and I'm the one with the headache, right? I'm not getting a headache for them. No, get out of here. You don't do it either. So this is what I want you to do. This is your friendly podcast smiling host saying to you, as of today, I want you to think of all the people who you've been having these conversations with, these hard conversations, and they're not getting it. And you keep trying, and you keep getting upset and angry because you're just like, can you just listen? Can you just get it? I'm giving you permission today to say something different to that person, especially when it comes to epilepsy and your child, special needs, exceptionalities, whatever terminology you use, other health impaired, OHI, or even if it's you and you just need to tell people to cut it out, right? I give you permission first to yourself to say, you know what? I don't need to apologize for this situation, this circumstance, another day, because this was beyond my control. Y'all, I feel the presence of the Lord. This is about to come one of my other podcasts. This was beyond my control. I will not apologize for. Get your pen and your paper. The biggest person that I get to apologize to is God, right? Because I think, my thoughts sometimes. We all do. Or we say things, or we don't speak up when we should. I had this dream the other day, and it was like people were missing heaven. They were missing God because they didn't stand up for justice. They didn't stand up for their neighbor. They didn't stand up for their friend. They didn't stand up when they could have. We all have the power within us to speak up for that cause, that thing that we're passionate about, that person who cannot speak up for themselves. Epilepsy is in the shadows. Oh my gosh, I hope he doesn't mind saying I had the great talk with the board chair for the Epilepsy Foundation. And I tell you again, if you're not on that platform, please go. They have so much information, and they have support, a supportive network. Get involved in some of those groups. Get involved. Though the resources are there for you. I called someone and I was like, send me the pamphlets, send me the brochures, send me. And I went into the school and I was like, listen, you need to know this. And listen, you know what I told them to do? I said, take these seizure 911 posters, flyers, and post them by the security guard station, put them on the floor, on each floor, on the wall, put them in the bulletin cabinet. It didn't matter. I wanted people to know, because it's a matter of life and death. People need to know that epilepsy happens. They need to know it doesn't matter if you were born with it. The truth is, there's a possibility, right, that people, and I'm not speaking gloom and doom, I'm speaking reality. And I am a woman of faith. I will pray against this thing. I will pray for healing. I will pray for the epilepsy children and warriors, that they will be able to just fight and never give up and use their voice. I will pray that the Epilepsy Foundation will receive the support that they need, and that just like some of these other things, when epilepsy affects more people than autism, from what I've been told, and autism too, right? The people are advocating, they're out there, they're speaking. We have to do our part, because it is important. We need a cure. People have died from epilepsy. People have been bullied because of epilepsy. People's relationships have been severed because of epilepsy. People have been disregarded and made to feel like they're not alone, and they need to suffer on their own, and they need to try to figure this out by themselves. There have to be more resources. This makes no sense. That a person, me, a mom raising a child, right? All of a sudden has to try to figure out so many things by myself. Now, I will admit in New York, they had great resources, but the thing was for her, it was too much. And it would have been easy for some to say, well, stay there, get the resources, have them help you out with whatever while you work on what you need to, because you need that sometimes. You need that cushion. You need that support. That's why it's there. Not to be a big old hand. I'm over you because you got support from this organ. Come on, stop this foolishness, right? We look at the world today. And a lot of people who were so-called, quote unquote, small lording, I'm talking about the landlords too. That situation, we ended up having to leave when they could have done better. And they knew my daughter had a medical condition. They knew. And instead of doing the right thing, they didn't. Poor choices. Landlords, if you have someone with a condition, please, it's not their fault. They did not ask for it. They did not pay for it. They did not say, let me have this disability so I can be on this check that's not enough in the first place to do some of the things that they need to do. That's not it. Please, people, stop. I know it's not all of you, but I know a lot of you are like, yeah, I get it. She's right. I just wish the people would stop this foolishness, y'all. It doesn't make sense. People don't want to necessarily go and sit in places to get governmental support and sit there and be treated like less than when they have degrees, or they don't have degrees and they're smart and knowledgeable and full of wisdom. And they are people of strength, but life happens, epilepsy happens, and things shift. And we have to move with the shift and not give up. You're already fighting. You're already wrestling. You're already trying to understand why, what happened. How do I stay afloat? How do I not lose my place? And then someone has the audacity to treat you as less than when this is beyond your control, or talk to you disrespectfully when it's beyond your control. Instead of use humanity to be human. And to treat people better. To stop disrespecting people because of a situation that is beyond their control. The homeless person out there in the street. Everybody, whether we could come up and judge, because you know how it is in this world. People look at you and they judge you before you ever open your mouth up. Some of those people that are homeless, they were one paycheck away from being homeless, and they worked super hard. Some of them were teachers, professors, doctors, all kinds of things. Went through a broken heart, lost the relationship, had a breakdown because they lost a loved one. What are we doing, humanity? What are we doing? It's almost like, God forbid, it should be like the days of Noah when God was like, listen, I'm starting this thing over. This is not what something went wrong here. No, this is not what no. We've got to do better. We have it in our ability to do better, to be better, to show respect, right? So, if you've been going through those things, listen, I'm giving you permission to write it down and say, to so-and-so, this is my conversation. I know you're saying you're giving me advice, but I have specialists. I have doctors. I have epileptologists. I have the Epilepsy Foundation. these are the people who I go to because they understand what it is that me and my family are going through. And so, do y'all want the script? I'm giving it. And so, I would appreciate from this day forward that you do not speak with me about this anymore, about my child, about what you believe I'm doing and what I'm not, about whatever it is. Because I already have a community that I go to for that. And leave it alone. And don't apologize for that. Your peace is important. And if you're constantly finding yourselves in a space where you're constantly trying to explain to people who don't want to hear your explanation in the first place, they've already got it in their mind. Some preconceived misconception about what you need to be doing. And if it were coming from a place of love, compassion, and not judgment, I would understand it. And I would say, listen, sometimes, yes, we have to, I'm a coach, right? And so as a coach, there are people who want to write books who come to me and I say, listen, the way that, now I'm going to coach you differently because I need you to get it done. But that's not judging them. That's not pointing my finger in their face. That's not trying to put my foot on top of their head when they're already looking for an answer. And I commend those of you who are out there looking for answers even though you haven't found them yet. Keep looking. Don't give up. Keep trying to find it. It's out there. Somebody's going to listen. Somebody's going to help. Somebody will. Even I am still looking for answers. But I won't give up. I won't give up because the situation doesn't look like what I thought it would look like or what I expected or how I expected it to be. That just means I didn't find it. I have to keep looking and never give up because I have a child who's depending on me. Like you probably have a child who's depending, or maybe you're a caregiver. Maybe it's not epilepsy. Maybe, but people depend on you. So take the necessary time to set some boundaries. I will not apologize and I will not talk to this person about this anymore. If they decide later on to come from a better place, a better space where they really want to know, as a matter of fact, send them to the podcast. Because sometimes, people are not going to hear it from you. It's so hard to say that. But maybe they will hear it from me or from the Epilepsy Foundation. And if they don't apologize. You keep on going. Because your voice matters. And you matter. And so, to all of our brave epilepsy warriors out there, if I had some pom-poms, I would stand up and just shake them, and I would just shake them for you in celebration of you, caregiver, of you, epilepsy warrior. I would shake them for the parent whose child transitioned. I would wave them for you in celebration of all that you've done and all that you continue to do. Because we are unapologetically purple. All right. That's what I had for you today. I guess I better, later on, I'll go on over to Pep Talk with Yedidah and Real Talk because I have some things to share with them too. But you keep on living. Even when you don't see your way out, you keep searching for it. You're going to find it sooner or later. And I'll say this to you, because how can I come on and not tell you this? in your darkest moment, in the hardest thing that there is for you to ever experience, know that you can talk to God about it. I hope you're not mad with him. Please don't be. It's not him who makes a lot of this ridiculousness happen in the earth. It's the other one who I give no credit to. Stand up in the bravery of God. Get your courage up. Get your faith up. Get your hope up. If you look and you say, well, my child is not doing too good today, get your hope up and just keep saying, I just believe it's going to get better. It's gotta get better. Love on them and love on yourself. You need to be loved on. You need someone to tell you that you're doing a good job. And maybe you say it's not enough. It's not enough. You're doing the best that you can do with what you have, so you're doing a good job. And if you feel like you could learn more, then go ahead. Learn more. Research more. Go on the Epilepsy Foundation's page. Look at some of those stories. And don't feel bad if your story doesn't look like theirs. The good news for us right now is that my daughter has not had a seizure since we've been down here. And actually, it was around last July, I want to say. Yeah. She didn't have one last July because that's when we moved. That's when we arrived where we are in another state, and she didn't have one. And instead of her really having a hard time with the heat, we used to have to spend the summers inside, and even if we went out to go get her medicine or something, it was not good. I had to hold her up. My daughter's taller than I am, y'all. But I had to hold her up, and she would just be like, Mommy, I need to get away. It was so sad. But when we moved, it was hotter than New York, and she was just like, come on, let's go. Let's go, Mommy. Let's go get some funnel cake, or let's go outside and walk. And I was the one who was like, oh my gosh, this heat is trying to zap me. But she was fine. Oh my gosh. She was fine. So if it doesn't look like everything you expected it to, you keep on looking and you keep on searching, and you will just keep looking for the answer. Reach out to people. I think I'm going to email someone later on today and say, hey, what about this? Keep looking. Keep hoping. And when you feel like you have no more strength, and even when you don't, put your trust, put your faith, put your hope in God. All right. What can I give y'all? Let me see. I found one. Here you go. I don't know what this one sounds like, but I hope that's a clap. Keep on going. I'm cheering you on. I'm cheering you on. You've been listening to Unapologetically Purple. Stop apologizing and stop explaining. Those that need to listen will listen. And those that don't, just don't do it. Until next time, this is your host. This is Coach Yedidah. This is Unapologetically Purple. And I thank you for taking time out of your schedule to listen. Pass it on. Tell someone about it. And let's just keep on going. All right? All righty.